how much lower will the Tesla stock go? Where is the bottom? We just had basically the worst week for Tesla stock in the last 2 years. So let's dive into this and let's find out where is the bottom if indeed keeps dropping. I think there are two levels that we have to really pay attention to. One is a lot less likely, and the other one is, we'll see what's going to happen. But first, before I give you those two levels where I think it could go, we have to look into what's happening right now. Like, why is the stock down so much right here? It's because of a few reasons. So this Friday, just now, it's driven by macro. Everything is down because the Fed is probably going to increase rates more now because unemployment numbers, they came out, and the Fed is not seeing what it would like to see. Then the Twitter deal, the market is uncertain about what's going to happen to that, and that's not good for Tesla stock, especially if Elon needs to sell more of Tesla stock to make that deal happen. And then lastly, Tesla missed deliveries, and now there are bears like Chicken Genius Singapore that say that Tesla has a demand issue, which I think is completely not true. How low will Tesla stock drop? Well, if you look at the chart here, this is Tesla stock on Yahoo Finance. And if we look right here, there's one support level, and it can go down as low as 208 if you just look at this chart. So if we just look at this box and just pay attention to the low right here, if I go right here, it says the lowest point was $208.69. So I would say this is a fairly there's some support right here, but I think a much stronger support level is around this level. And if you look at the lowest level right here, it's going to be probably around here, which is 179.80 cents. And yeah, so 179.83 cents. So if it keeps going down and it breaks through this support level, which, this price point, I think, is definitely within reach. I would not be surprised at all if it keeps going down to this level, especially if he has a little bit more macro pressure. Everything, you look at all the stocks, everything is just going down. But also, interestingly, retail investors also are selling in general. And one thing about retail investors is they are known to be pretty good at buying at the top and then selling at the bottom. Not that that means this will actually happen again, but just something to point out. And I'm talking retail overall. I'm not specifically talking about Tesla necessarily, because with Tesla, retail investors are just a little bit different because we are all in. So for example, me, every time it drops, I'm trying to buy more. When it goes up, I might build up my cash just a little bit to a point where I'm more happy with my cash reserves. But if it keeps going down, I'm depleting everything that I have. So for Tesla stock, retail investors, I would not necessarily look at that number as a meaningful number, really. Of course, all of those things are just my opinions. So next strong support level, and if it drops, around this level, am I going to tell my grandma to buy Tesla stock? No. Am I going to tell my brother to buy more? Yes. But this next level is right around here. So this is about 120-ish, 140 level. Before the split, that's basically 420. This is where Chicken Genius Singapore would become a Tesla bull again, even short term. And this is where he would go long again. And if it drops to this level, I am personally going to call my grandma and tell her, hey, look, you have to buy Tesla stock. It's such a good deal. Profits are going up. The stock price is going down. That would make about as much sense as when you put your hand into water and then your hand gets dry. And you take out your hand out of the water and somehow it gets that. How does that work? That's the kind of environment that we would be in if it drops that low. Because I project, when I project my bear case to 2030, just from levels that Tesla stock was in August, that would still, based on my bear case, and I'm a pretty conservative investor also. Before Tesla, the only stock that I had was S&P 500. I don't like to pick individual stocks and bet on them. But Tesla is such a big exception. There's so many good things going on that why would I want to own the whole index where many of the companies are going to go completely bankrupt? But I know I have a winner here, basically almost for sure, even in a worst case scenario. These, of course, are just my opinions. This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. What you do is up to you. So you take responsibility whether you make money or lose money. Just remember that. But I'm just sharing what I'm doing. So if it drops down to this level right here, I'm going to try to load up as much on Tesla stock as I can. Now, I only own Tesla stock in my stock portfolio, but I do have other assets. I have real estate. And if real estate is not in shambles, at this point, I would seriously consider trading some of those properties to Tesla stock. But then, of course, if a real estate is down as much as the stock, then there's not that much point. But if it's not, then that's one possibility I will seriously consider. Although, getting rid of real estate, that's a slow process and there's going to be taxes. So I would not really want to do that at all. But at this point, it would present that opportunity. But for me, if I'm buying the stock at 300 or 400, I'm still buying. It's just that if it drops lower, below those, regular trading levels, I'm just using more of my cash reserves to buy Tesla stock because I know I'm getting a better deal. And if it goes back up to more to levels that are higher, then I'm gonna build up my cash just a little bit. That's just all I'm doing. So I'm basically dollar cost averaging, really. So I'm not trying to time the market. The problem with timing the market, I hear a lot of people that say you cannot time the market. I would generally disagree with that, but hear me out. It's not because I think you should time the market. I think in general, you should not do that. Because the problem with timing the market is, can you time it every single time? Can you time the market 10 times out of 10? I don't think so. But can you do that 9 times out of 10? If you're incredibly good, maybe. But that one time you make a mistake, and in investing, nothing is 100%. The best investors in the world, eventually they make mistakes. So it's just a matter of time. And if you can time the market, then you are likely to use margin, you're likely to borrow a lot of money, you're likely to raise a lot of money, you are likely to use a lot of leverage. And when you do that, you're exposing yourself to insane risks to lose everything. So generally, that's why I don't like the idea of timing the market, because that opens you up to possibility to, oh, hey, look, if I raise money, if I use the leverage, I'll make so much more. And eventually, that leads to a bad ending. And by that, I mean a really bad ending. This billionaire who, he was quite well known, he lost $20 billion over 10 days. That was a big loss. I'm going to butcher the story, but to completely oversimplify it, he leveraged his investments and he tried to time a market basically, and then he lost everything. Now, interestingly, he basically borrowed money from 2 different institutions, and those 2 institutions did not know that the other institutions lent money to him, so they thought that their risk is not as high, and then so this was quite interesting. So with Tesla stock, I'm definitely not timing the market. I think it sort of makes sense to try to do that. Even if you don't use leverage, it might make sense to do that a little bit if you have multiple over investments where you think you can get the same returns, so that if Tesla does not drop much lower to a point where you're hoping it will, you still have like 10 over investments lined up that you can still get in to have somewhat similar returns. But the problem with Tesla stock is, what other opportunities do you have that have such a high return with such a low risk? Tesla stock definitely does not have the highest returns, but when I put together the risk and the return, what I see together is something that I'm absolutely in love. Eventually, there's going to be something much better that comes up, and the moment that happens, I will sell all of my stock immediately and get into this other investment. But it's extremely unlikely to be that I will get into another stock in my lifetime where I just go all in into one stock, unless it's a company that I found, or unless it's another Elon Musk company. I'm not saying you should not do that. I'm just saying this is my investment philosophy. I am a pretty conservative investor, and opportunities like Tesla stock woes do not come around in decades, really. I like companies that still have the founder, because as long as you still have a founder, the company can pivot a lot easier, and the company can add new crazy products in a much more efficient way. So when we look at Apple, while Steve Jobs was around, Apple was innovating. What have they done since Steve Jobs passed away? They increased their market cap, for sure, 100%. They maximized each product. They have done a very good job with that for their market value and for the stock. But as a consumer, when I look at what is Apple doing, where is my foldable phone? Apple, I had to go get a Samsung phone. I would prefer an Apple foldable phone, but it's not out. I mean, what's the last big thing that Apple has done? The Apple Watch? I don't know about you, but for me personally, it's not a big thing. I would consider that as a rather tiny thing. They tried the car, the Project Titan, they call it. They started that almost a decade ago, when Tesla was just a tiny little company. Apple could have bought Tesla back then, and they didn't. They really could have. And that would have, if they did that, Apple would be so different today. So once the company loses the founder, that's when I think that's when the companies pay a big penalty for trying to innovate or change or add a new product, or even if they try to do that. Oftentimes, like not often, they are successful. But with Tesla, it would appear to me that Elon Musk will stay with Tesla for a very long time. And as an investor, that makes me very happy. That's one big reason why I like keeping Tesla stock, because the founder, Elon Musk, is still present. And Elon Musk is not just any founder. He's in a whole other league compared to most other founders. And here's a crazy thought. I believe if Elon Musk wanted to buy Twitter using Tesla's money, I think retail investors would not really be against that. There would be definitely strong pushback against that overall. But if Elon Musk wanted to do that, I think he could. And I think anything, one big reason why I own Tesla stock is because you get a lot of startups that Elon Musk is involved in, which you don't really get with other companies, unless the founder is still present. But even then, again, the risk to reward ratio is not really there. The track record is not really there. You can't show me another founder that can also do impossible things over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, tell me who's putting rockets in space? Jeff Bezos? Okay, where can I invest with him? Amazon? He's no longer really present with Amazon. He's not the CEO anymore. And Elon's rockets are much more better. So why would I invest with Jeff when I can invest with Elon? So even if you find another company that's really good, are they as good as Tesla? Is the founder as good as Elon? Because the difference between number one and number two, that's a big difference. The outcome, the result is going to be a big difference. When I set a goal to make my first million, which now was a long time ago, I read this quote: there's no competition on the extra mile. And Elon is taking that to a whole other level. I mean, no one is really competing against him. There's literally no competition with what he is doing. He's competing against himself really only. And for us investors, especially those of us that made money in business before, and those of us who have active businesses like me, I have active businesses running at the same time as well, we face this question: should we put our money into our own business, or should we take that money and invest it into someone else's company? Maybe that will produce high returns. And it's something that I sort of struggled for a little while as well. If you watch the channel, you know that my net worth is over 10 million. So at that, there's a level where if you only have 1 million and you take that money and you put it into your business, you'll probably make a lot more money than if you invest into someone else's company, especially a publicly traded company. But when you get to a certain point of your net worth, if you take a large sum of money, it's difficult to beat those returns if you find a really good investment such as Tesla. Like, if I believe, which I do, that I will most likely 10x my money in the next 8 years with Tesla stock, can I do that same thing with a business that I would start? No, I think I can. But how difficult, how much time, how much effort would that take? Is it worth it? If I'm doing it for fun, sure. But if one of the reasons to do it is to make more money, then that's a whole different question, right? So we investors, we also have to really consider that. And you also have to consider how talented you are. Of course, the more talented, the smarter you are, you will be able to still beat the market even with large amounts of money. So that's something to really think about and consider. But then I am also a somewhat conservative investor, so I don't want to put all of my money into just one thing, because what if I lose it all or most of it? I don't want to place myself in a position where, even if it's, one chance out of 1,000 that it could happen, I don't want to take that chance, really. And I also have big goals. I personally want to eventually accumulate over $1 billion in net worth. That's going to take a long time, but I also have a few ways to do that. So even if Tesla stock goes down to zero, which I think the possibility of that is so low, but it's never zero. With any investment, it's never zero, no matter how little it is. Whatever that possibility is, you have to think for yourself: is it 1 out of 1,000? Is it 1 out of 10,000? Is it 1 out of 1,000,000? And for me, Tesla stock is a big part of my long-term financial plan, but I also keep businesses that I know I can take to that extreme level. But assuming that Tesla stock meets my base case or even bear case, then those long-term financial goals will be much more easier to attain. And if Tesla stock keeps dropping for now, it will be a lot easier because I will be getting such a deal. And if it drops down to 120, 140-ish level, then maybe if I can trade some of my real estate for the stock, that could turn out very nicely long term. If you are considering to load up more on Tesla stock, I made this video, 48 reasons why I only own Tesla stock in my stock portfolio. Click on that right now, and I will see you there. My name is Matt Posius. Thank you for watching.